Welcome to the Blytheweigh Mining Show. I am Bonnie Hughes. Today's guest is Phoenix Global Mining. They have the restart of the Empire mine in Idaho. They're targeting about 8,800 tons of copper cathode production for 2021. And then phase two, they also have a second project with multi-assets that they're looking to develop in the future. They recently had a share consolidation, 10 for 1, which may show that the market cap and the price is a little bit off today, as most of the news feeds that show share prices are not quite up to scale yet because they've just done the consolidation. Here to talk about the company is Richard Wilkins. He is the CFO. Hello, Richard, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, Bonnie. Very nice to be with you.
So you did a 10 for 1 share consolidation because you're looking to be listed on the OTC market in New York. And that sounds like a very good strategy considering you're in Idaho.
That's right. Our projects are in, all of them actually are in North America, the Northwest Territories, but in particular, and that's in Canada, but in particular in Idaho and the USA. So since we listed on AIM last June, we've made a significant effort to try to expand our North American shareholder base, which seems a logical thing to do. We've received a great deal of interest, and I'd like to think there's potentially rather a lot of demand out there. But at the moment, it's unrealized demand because it appears that the typical North American investor does have difficulty through their brokers buying AIM stocks which are trading at a penny price, which is of course what we've been doing between 3 and 4p, and it's preventing a number of people have commented that they've spoken to their brokers, they wanted to buy our shares and are being told that, well, they can't. So talking to people in New York in particular, the advice that we've unanimously received really is that we should get ourselves a trading platform, a listing of some sort in the United States. And having looked at the options, the New York OTCQX market is the one that has stood out as the right thing for us to do at this time.
It certainly makes a lot of sense to have a listing there. Would you retain your AIM listing in the future? Because obviously you do have shareholders that are trading on AIM.
Oh, absolutely. This would be a dual listing. This would really just give access to a wider range of North American investors, both in the US and in Canada. We very much stay listed on AIM, and to the AIM shareholder and the UK shareholders and what have you, they shouldn't really notice much difference, I don't think, other than I would like to think that, as our chairman has said, we view this as a potentially transformational step, because if we're right and the demand is there, then I think that this should improve liquidity in our stock, demand for our stock, and with all that, I very much hope that the market capitalization will finally start to rise, because over the last year, since we are listed on AIM, we have delivered really on everything we said we'd do. And there's no doubt that we've added considerable value to the company in a number of ways, but it's just not being recognized for one reason or another, and I'm hoping that the dual listing in New York will rectify that.
Well, certainly shareholders in North America will be happy that they won't have to trade shares in a 5-hour ahead time zone for them. So it will be definitely, would be beneficial for the share price and for other shareholders getting involved with the company. Because you do have a very interesting asset in Idaho, because obviously the restart of an old mine requires a lot less capex than it would be if you had to build a mine from scratch.
Well, I think the point I'd start by making is that, yes, it is a past producing mine. Historically, up to the Second World War, they were mining very high grades of copper, 6 to 8% head grade, and significant gold, silver, zinc, and latterly very high grades of tungsten as well. But that was all in the underground deposit, and in due course, of course it will be our intention to put that underground deposit back into production, because that, if you like, is where the potential elephant lies. That's where we potentially have an asset that a major mining company would look at and think, well, maybe they might want to get involved with it. To get there, we need cash flow, and we want that anyway. So we're starting literally by going for a simple open pit mine on the top of the mountain. This is the oxidized ore, which has been weathered basically, which sits above the underground ore, which was partially mined in the past. This will be a very simple heap leach, open pit mine. There's no rocket science on this at all, and we can get that into production pretty quickly, targeting 8,000 tons a year, maybe more, and we would hope to be in production by 2021. So that's the first focus. That should add a lot of value to the company. It will also give us cash flow, which will give us the wherewithal to carry on the relevant work on the underground mine with a view to putting that back into production in due course.
So I understand you have currently you have a 100,000 ton JORC compliant copper resource, and are you working on expanding that?
Oh yeah, so the current resource is entirely in the oxidized ore, in other words, the open pit that we would be mining, and we have nothing in the underground in the current resource at all. We have acquired, and we've announced recently that we have expanded our territory to the north and the south, and we are currently drilling into those new areas, which again were historically producing, so we know that there's mineralization there. And when we've completed that program, we would hope to increase the resource, yes.
So you will have some assay results coming out in the next few months then?
Oh, quicker than that. We've got 5 drill rigs working flat out on site at the moment, both diamond drill and reverse circulation. It's a combination of infill drilling to upgrade the existing resource, particularly the inferred element to measured and indicated, and step out or exploration drilling into these new areas to expand the resource and just check how far it goes as best we can in different directions. So those 5 drill rigs, they're drilling some 40,000 feet. We got the first assay results back recently, and we've announced that hole, and that was very encouraging indeed. But since then, we've now had a whole string of further assays have come back. They're currently going through our internal QA/QC procedures, and we'll start announcing on the back of those. And so we can expect another announcement on the drilling program very soon in the next few days, and then we can expect further announcements while the rest of the assays come back and the balance of the drilling program is completed for the rest of this month and going pretty much all the way through September.
Oh, so those results will come just in time so New York shareholders can take part in the growth of the company.
Well, that's right. We are hoping to, and there's no reason to assume at this point in time that it won't happen. We would target to be on the New York OTC QX by the end of September. And we qualify for the market in all respects. There are a number of criteria required. We qualify in all respects other than the share price. The OTC QX, you're not allowed onto it unless your share price on your other market, your overseas market or whatever, has been trading at the equivalent of 25 US cents, which obviously we weren't. Hence the 10 for 1 consolidation, which has moved a share price yesterday, which was trading about 3.1p, and today we're trading at roughly 31p. So we have gone up 10 times, but at the same time, of course, our share capital has dropped from 318 million shares to 31.8 million shares. And as you mentioned at the beginning, Bonnie, not all the platforms have picked up that yet, and some of them are multiplying the new share price by the old number of shares.
Well, certainly shareholders like to have as less dilution as possible, so consolidating their shares may not have been such a bad idea, even if you weren't going to list on New York, but certainly it is helpful that you are listing on New York. So I understand that you are working on a bankable feasibility study to optimize the PEA, and that's expected sometime next year?
Well, the optimization of the PEA will flow naturally out of the BFS work, and the drilling program that we're doing now is effectively the front end of the BFS, because that will then give us an updated resource, and the metallurgical test work on the back of that will be very important. So that's what we're focusing on right now, and yes, the BFS we're targeting for next year. Currently we're targeting it for Q2. But let's get the drilling program done. Let's get the updated resource. Let's get ourselves onto the OTC QX market. We will go marketing in the States, do a couple of roadshows over there, and see if we can drum up the real interest that we believe is there, because the American market does seem to be quite a patriotic market. It likes to buy shares that trade in their own markets, and in particular to buy into assets in their own backyard. And for many of the people that we spoke to, they'd never heard of the Empire Mine, because it's been owned by Canadian juniors since the Second World War, and although it's had an awful lot of drilling done into the open pit area, nobody really tried or had any great desire, it seems, to actually go into production. So we're the first people now to actually say we're turning this into a mine. We want this hill producing metal again, and this is great news for many of the Americans we've been speaking to, an opportunity to buy into a project in their own backyard in a mining friendly state like Idaho. And it's very frustrating that they haven't been able to do so. And
Yes.
so the OTC QX, as I've said, will hopefully fix that problem. But to get there, we had to fix the share price problem, hence yesterday's shareholder meeting, which was unanimously approved, overwhelmingly approved. So we have the full support of our shareholders, and everyone does accept and agree that this is the right thing to do at this time. It's a very logical step for us, and as I said earlier, as our chairman has said, we think it'll be a transformational step.
Well, certainly Idaho is a very good jurisdiction to have a mining project. So hopefully your permitting will go smoothly as you go towards finalizing permitting for production of the mine.
Yes, yeah, Idaho is making a serious effort to try to become the #1 mining jurisdiction within the United States. I think at the moment they might be fourth, probably behind Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, perhaps. But the governor of Idaho, Butch Otter, he has organized Idaho road shows. They went to Toronto and New York. We went to their presentation in New York. It was a whole day presentation. It was well attended, not only by mining companies that are in Idaho, and many of them were presenting, but by the New York financial community. And Idaho was basically selling itself as the go-to destination, the new destination for mining in the United States. And in particular, they obviously focused on permitting, which has always been, well, been pretty good there. But the governor has created a new office for energy and mineral resources within his own office, and it's staffed by very talented people who are very dedicated, and the purpose of that office is to speed up the implementation of mineral projects, including the permitting. Now, on patented land, and much of our property is patented land, which means we own it, the only permitting that we would require is at state level, and that's not going to be any problem at all in Idaho. But to the extent that we're on unpatented land, which is still owned by the state, by the federal government, and certainly our leach pads and things like that will be on unpatented land, we do still need federal approval alongside state approval. And so one of the things the governor has done, and this particular office is doing, is it's synchronizing the two approval processes so that they run alongside each other and not one after another. And as a result, we're seeing permitting in Idaho speeding up very significantly, and I think some of the neighboring states are looking at this and probably are going to copy. So that is very encouraging. There is a process we have to go through. Can't get around it, and we don't want to get around it. And as long as we follow the rules and we understand the process and the timeline, we don't see any problems there at all.
Oh, that's great to hear that. Well, we look forward to seeing your assay results and the progress of the project. And thank you very much for joining us, Richard, and we hope to speak with you again soon.
It's a great pleasure, Bonnie. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Blytheweigh Mining Show. Please have a very profitable day.